W420radionetwork.com.
Well, today we've got a fascinating and uplifting tale of a young man who had a transformative experience in his life at the age of 18 after a troubled early years in childhood, joined the Army, went to Iraq, gonna fight for the US of A, and unfortunately had a very tragic near, almost killed in Iraq. But that itself really changed the course of your life. So welcome in Cody Walker, a longtime cultivator, dispensary owner, and he's got experience running high-end extraction labs in the Bay Area of San Francisco. And Cody, before we get into the cannabis world, tell me about the absolutely gut-wrenching experience that you had as an 18-year-old near Baghdad a number of years ago. That was, it was a terrible experience, but it really changed the course of your life.
Yeah. So back in 2004, I was shipped off to Iraq as a young 18-year-old soldier, just fresh off boot camp. Actually, about a month and a half after boot camp, I was shipped out to Iraq. One morning, I was actually on top of a turret, and we were headed out on a mission, and somebody blew up what they call a VBIED. It's a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. So basically, they turned their truck into a big bomb. I took some shrapnel. It's severed my nose off my face completely, sort of cut my lips from here to here and filleted them off my face. I got shot in the cheek and out my mouth, and then I got shot once in my shoulder, sort of all in the same instance. Yeah.
That is amazing. You survived the bombing, and then the friendly fire from the patrol officer. Just expound upon that a little bit, because this is something I've never heard. You should have been dead a long time ago, brother, but here you are in front of a beautiful plant that was also instrumental in helping you recover from the PTSD.
Yeah, so I did take a little bit of friendly fire. It does happen. You can't be mad at anybody for it. But I was shot with a 9mm from my commander through my cheek, and he was trying to sort of fire over my truck, and I stood up, got in the way, and back in the day, I used to watch magicians catch bullets with their teeth, and I am here to tell you that that's not true. That's a lie. They cannot catch them with their teeth. I got mine shot out trying to do it. So
yeah,
it was a very interesting day. Real early in the morning, we were so close to my forward operating base that the turret guys on the post was actually, they were engaged in the firefight also. So realistically, if I would have been, 10 miles out of the base, I don't know if I'd be here today. There's not a lot of people that get shot in their face and get to talk about it later on and get to do what we get to do here. And, it was very, very instrumental in sort of the way that I've been raised and the way that I live my life now. It's, a very disciplined life at this point, and we're really, really proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
Well, tell me, you're Medevac out, you come home, the government gives you some money, and what do you do with it, and how did it change the course of your life in a favorable way as you dealt with the physical, emotional, and psychological scars from that horrible day?
Yeah, so as an 18-year-old boy, I was what they call a Cav Scout. I did reconnaissance for the infantry, for the cavalry, for tank battalion, stuff like that. If they wanted to know what was on the other side of that hill, I went and told them. Now in civilian life, there's not a lot that I can do with that. So I didn't leave the military with a grand job that I could go and be, in telecommunications or something like that. I was a recon scout. There's not a lot of people that need, that service outside of the military. So I was very fortunate. I got a large lump of sum of money after I got out of the military due to a government program that I sort of tried out for. And I was broke. I didn't have a penny to my name. I was actually in McDonald's one morning, and this program, basically you fill out paperwork. they send you cash, or they send you, money into your bank account a couple of months later. You never know if it's going to come or when it's going to come. So I was sitting in McDonald's and I was looking at the dollar menu, and my wife calls me up and she says, "Honey, we have $50,000 in the bank account." I was like, "Okay, I'll take a number 6 instead of a dollar menu item." I was able to reach for the stars in that one. And, so right then and there, I turned around, talked to my wife, said, "Listen, cannabis has been a huge part of my life ever since I was a kid." I'm sort of a second generation guy, thanks to my dad. He grew up and taught us this great plant, and to have the respect for the plant that we do. And so I said, "Hun, let's open up a grow. Let's do this. Let's go buy some lights. Let's go rent some space." So I moved her out of Southern California, and we moved up to Oregon, and we sort of started our first large, cannabis business after trying to sort of poke around and play around for a little bit. So we started our grow operation on the government's dime, thank goodness. And here we are today.
Yeah, kind of ironic that other veterans who go to the VA with PTSD or trauma in any way, shape, or form are not able to receive cannabis as a medical treatment for their mental, psychological, and other injuries and the like. Yet here you are, launched a career in it. Just tell me what role it played in your recovery and how it to this day is instrumental in keeping you on track. Because a lot of people think, yeah, great, get high, weed's a great party drug. Well, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with the new legalization, it's really referred to a lot of the time as recreational cannabis. And I try to sort of steer people away from that, because it's adult use cannabis at this point. Yes, we can have fun with it. I do enjoy getting high myself, but I use it as a medicine, and I use it as a tool in my tool belt to really get over the anxiety, to help me sleep. I utilize CBD a lot to sort of keep my body in line. I really push for the anti-anxiety properties, especially with veterans. We deal with a lot of PTSD, sleep issues, and just general mental health issues. It's a very, very rough life, especially for somebody who's seen combat. So, we really push it onto our veterans. And there's a couple of different programs that we work through to try to get veterans safe access to cannabis. Because you're right, the government won't allow us to do it yet. And as sad as it is, and as much research as there is behind it, I really wish we could push it a little bit further. But right now, we're doing what we can. And I really enjoy watching the progression of how cannabis changes the lives of veterans. In particular, and it's primarily along the depression side. Also, it's PTSD is a tough one to battle, because there's so many different problems that happen with it. And if you can start to get some of those aligned into a good alignment, you're sleeping better, which means you're eating better, which means you're happier, which means you're not as depressed. The little things start to come in and roll up and really change veterans' lives. And so I work with personal friends. We work, like I said, with a couple of different companies to try to get some safe access for medicine, because at this point it is medicine.
Absolutely. And you're giving back, and that's awesome. And speaking of back, right back behind you is a beautiful garden, and you got to tell us where you're at and what it's all about.
Yeah, so we've got 2 indoor cultivation sites here. Both rooms are about 110 lights, and we've got about 420 plants in each room. We cycle through them every 8.5 to 9 weeks, and we grow about 300 to 350 pounds per room. This is utilized in both, our brands, our personal brands, and then we also help some brands, further themselves also. So we've got Low Key, we've got Dosha, and we've got Bayride as our 3 brands. And shameless plug here, but I got to be honest, it's some of the finer medication that I've been able to produce. We've got a great team behind us, and we're ready to just give the world what we do. We love what we do.
Well, awesome. I understand why. That looks beautiful. I wish we had smell-o-vision because we could, appreciate it a little bit more. So how about this? You go seed to flowering in 9 weeks with the indoor grow?
Yeah, well, not from seed to flower. We've got a separate room over here that we do all our vegging in and all of our cloning. We keep our moms in there. So we're able to sort of prep the plants in a different area and then move them into our flowering room so that when we do want to switch them over and take them from a vegging plant into a flowering plant, we're not wasting space. I mean, we do have to understand that this is commercial manufacturing at this point too. And so time is money, and the more turns we can get out of a room, the better off everybody is.
Sure. Now you got to talk to me about extraction, because when we met a few weeks ago at Canna Connect on the Empress yacht in Richmond Harbor in Northern California, you were turning me on to things I had never heard of before, the sauce and the diamonds and the batter and all this stuff. So for the uninitiated, us through a little bit of what the extraction is all about and what you end up with and how it compares to, a typical flower of marijuana.
Yeah, so we've gotten into this fantastic world of separation and extraction and compound manipulation. And so what we're able to do is we're able to take a whole plant like these back here. We get them into the freezer right away. Once they get cut down, they get into the freezer within a half an hour. And what that does is it starts to preserve some of our terpene profiles. The terpene profiles are what really give the flavors, the aromas, and some of the medicinal and effectiveness of the plant itself. Some terpenes will make you tired. Some terpenes will help deliver THC and CBD to your endocannabinoid system. And there's a multitude of different terpenes. And they're found in everyday lives too. But off of the cannabis plant, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to concentrate those into a form that can be utilized by patients that need higher doses. And so we can manipulate the percentage of THC depending and the percentage of terpenes depending on what flavor profile we want to hit for this cannabis extract. There's a million different ways to extract a plant, from pressing it out in a rosin press, to washing it in water. We utilize solvents. There's ethanol extraction. There's a multitude of different extraction methods. But realistically, what we're trying to get is a broad profile of what that plant looks like on the stem, but a concentrated form of that, to say the least.
Yeah. So you also work with CBDs, and just tell me, so many people are enamored with CBD, but there's a lot of mis and disinformation out there, and a lot of people purporting things that are not legit. So can you break it down for us, CBD world, which is blowing up everywhere?
Yeah, so CBD is a whole nother beast. It's part of the cannabinoid profile that's on some of these plants here, but the way that those plants have been bred is to sort of reduce the amount of THC and increase the amount of CBD. And what we're able to do with that is it's a non-psychoactive compound, so it doesn't get you the head high that a cannabis plant will. But there's a multitude of different good properties about it. It's analgesic. It's able to help with sleep. It's able to help with some bronchial disorders sometimes. There's a multitude of different effects that it can have. Now, it's also a pretty unregulated market right now. They don't have to go through the same rigorous steps that we do. We get inspected all the time, and we have to follow these particular licenses and stuff like that. So CBD is just a little bit different. It's you definitely have to do your research about the company that you're utilizing, and make sure that that you're getting everything in there that you wanted. It is a little bit easier to manipulate as far as being able to make tinctures and salves and balms and oh man, there's just everything that you can think of. People put CBD, and I've seen CBD fire logs where they put CBD in fire. It's really quite amazing what they're trying to do with this.
Yeah. So how do you sift through all these, preponderance of CBD products out there? What are the guidelines that I would look for as a consumer if I'm looking to purchase something for a sleep aid, or, I got a sore muscle and I'm reading about CBDs helping to calm the tight or sore muscle. So what are some of the things that you could clue us in on?
I mean, the first thing is ask your friend. Guaranteed, pretty much, your friend, your neighbor, your mom, your dad, they've tried it. Like you said, it's blowing up everywhere, and people are really becoming more familiar with it. So I always talk to people and they say, well, which company should I work with? There's 100,000 different CBD companies. And what I always suggest is go to your friends and your family and see who's using it, see why they're using it, and do some self-research about the companies that you're getting yourself into. Because not all companies are created equal. And, some of the big corporation companies, they're, just as they're just as bad as some of the little companies,
Yeah.
And so really trying to do some self-research now, trying to find a company is difficult because it's an unregulated market. There's not a what do you call it? Like a process to go through in order to become a CBD company. You can do it in your backyard if you really wanted to. So I would suggest, looking into the company more than looking into the product. Most companies use what we call CBD isolate, which is a 99.99% isolated form of this CBD molecule. And so the molecule is not going to change. It's like using bleach. Bleach is bleach, right? So CBD is normally CBD, but getting the right company that utilizes it with the right terpenes and the right additives is really where you want to go. So I always trust my friends and my family that have tried it before. And then there's always just calling and asking questions. It's a lot of self-research right now if you really want to start getting into CBD. Which is sad, but there is a lot of education about it out and about right now.
Yeah, got to do your research and find some friends who have had good experiences. Another, product that is blowing up, but now is becoming very contentious, is Delta 8 THC, which has been banned now in 15 states. The good news, Connecticut became the 19th state to legalize adult marijuana use. Great. But almost as many states are now banning Delta 8 THC, which, as I understand, is, it's an anomaly. But you tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So cannabis goes through what we call isomerizations. And that means that it can change its form depending on what the chemical makeup of it is. And what we're doing is we're converting CBD, which is a mass form. We can produce a lot of it, and we're converting it using a couple of different methods, but usually a high acid method, in order to essentially convert the CBD into Delta 8 THC. It doesn't have as much of the psychoactive effects to it, but the process is unregulated right now. And so that's really why the bans are coming out right now, is because if you don't do this process correctly, you're leaving products like lye or citric acid inside of these cartridges that can be very, very dangerous to the consumer. So until there's a set regulation and a set testing value to it, they're going to start banning it. And it's for consumer safety, because people do take shortcuts in labs to try to make money. And as sad as it is, it hurts people. And this big craze, because it doesn't go psychoactive, it can be sold in 7-Elevens and stuff like that right along next to your CBD does. But the process is much more dangerous and rigorous than just doing it in your backyard. You really need to have a chemist on site, somebody who understands isomerization, somebody who understands the science behind it before you start getting into non-tested Delta 8. And so I always caution people on the Delta 8 craze right now. If you find it in 7-Eleven, I would pretty much stay away from it. I personally, unless I know the manufacturer personally, I can't trust anything that's on the market right now because the testing regulations aren't there. Cannabis, it has to be tested multiple times before it gets onto the shelf, and it's being tested for everything. Now, Delta 8 and CBD doesn't have to be tested. It's an industry norm to get it tested, but it doesn't have to be. And people can lie about their tests. They can test one thing and then send something else out to the market. And so Delta 8, it's an absolute great compound for different ailments. It just needs to be derived properly in order to effectively help a patient.
Yeah, so I guess you'd get it from a dispensary that is going through the rigorous screening process and testing process in wherever state you are. Would be the way to go. Hey, Cody, it was great catching up with you. Again, I want to just grab what's behind you and just run with it, baby. That's awesome. That's a beautiful crop you've got there, and it's an amazing story. I mean, you almost gave your life in the service, and you got a second opportunity, and I'm glad you're giving back and using the cannabis in a healthy, positive way for many veterans as well. So really appreciate your time, and best of luck to you.
Absolutely, buddy. Whenever you're back in town, let me know, and you can come romp through the forest with us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful green scene. And we'll link your contact information at the W420radionetwork.com site. And also, if you go to W420radionetwork.com/archive, you can listen again or hear some excerpts. Cody Walker, he's the whiz. He's the lab director at Bayride and a beautiful cannabis brand, Loki and Dosha in Oakland, California. I'm Rich Walkoff, and we'll be right back.
W420radionetwork.com.